Yes, what is going on, people? Welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over exactly how I plan to achieve a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon, what my training plan is, how I decide a training plan, what gear I'm going to be wearing, how I'm mentally preparing. All these things I'm going to go through in this video, so if that's something you're interested in, do stick around. So how I come about making my training plans, a few things I do. I like to work from back to front, not from the race day, but from my max peak week. So in this case, week 10, I'm doing a 12-week training plan. I'm only going to be going over the remaining 4 weeks of this training plan because that's something I find easier to explain. So week 10 is going to be my longest week, if you like, the hardest week, where there's going to be the most intensity in this week, which will be 2 weeks before race day. So the reason why I have my most extensive week, 2 weeks before race day, so I'm doing a 2-week taper. A taper can be anything from 7 to 14 days. I'm experimenting with a 14-day taper on this training plan. So I make my own training plans. The reason why I make my own training plans is I like to be honest with myself what my strengths and weaknesses are. Instead of focusing on my strengths, I like to single out what my weaknesses are and try and improve my weaknesses to make my weaknesses strengths, rather than keep improving on my strengths that I already have. So a few of my strengths, I think, coming from a background where I was lifting weights and stuff before I got into running, I think my power to weight ratio is relatively good. So I don't like to focus too much on hill runs. Hill runs basically are really good. I do have hill runs, but some people might focus on hill runs every single week, maybe even 2 a week. For me personally, I like to just do them every now and again. Like to mix it up. The reason why hill runs are so good is because they increase your power, so they make you stronger as a runner. This is obviously really good, but like I said, I think this is already one of my strengths. So for me to achieve a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon, I have to try and be honest with myself. And one thing before I decided this plan, I went over all my strengths and weaknesses are, and that was something that I concluded that in this current moment in time, I would say that it is one of my strong points. So I don't want to focus too much on hill runs. I do have a few of them, but again, I'll go through that exactly. As you can see here on screen, I do have a few different runs, but another thing I want to be focusing on, you'll see in this training plan, there's a lot of speed work. Some people might be a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of speed work that I'm putting into my training plan. Tempo runs, threshold runs, interval runs, fartlek runs. These are all different types of speed intervals or speed work I'm going to be doing in my training plan. This might be too much for another person, but just because, say you might be going for a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon as well, but just because you're going for the same time as what I'm trying to achieve, it doesn't mean that we should execute our training plan in the same way, because your strengths might be different to my strengths, for example. Your weaknesses might be different to my weaknesses. Something you might be good at, I might be really bad at, and vice versa. So I'm trying to improve my weaknesses, and one way I'm trying to do that is increase my speed. So for me to achieve a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon, I need to increase my speed. I think I need to be a faster runner. I think I already have a relatively good endurance from achieving a marathon in under 3 hours. From all the strength and resilience that I built in my marathon training schedule, that is something I would say is one of my strengths. So speed for me is something I want to focus on, because I want to be more comfortable at running at a faster pace so that I can set a new PB. But this isn't a training plan I'm saying this is the only way to achieve this time. I'm just letting you know simply of what my training plan is. This I've tailor-made for myself based off what things I'm good at and what things I'm bad at currently. This is a 12-week training plan, but to be honest, I've only really got detailed in the remaining 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm currently 5 weeks out from my sub 1 hour 20 half marathon attempts. Anything sub 1 hour 20 I'll be pleased with. I've never ran a specific half marathon before. The only run I've ever done specifically is a 5k run, which was 17 minutes and 12 seconds, which was done probably around 9 months ago, so a good while ago now. And the other one is a marathon in 2 hours 55 minutes 58 seconds. So a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon is what I'm aiming for. So going through this run, I'm not going to go through every single session, but as you can see on screen here, I've got different runs. So my first run here is on Monday. I've been furloughed off work at the minute, so my rest day was normally on Monday if I was going to have a rest day. I'm running here 7 days a week, but when I do have rest days, I've put that on a Thursday to break the week up nicely, just simply because I don't have to go into work, so I can kind of have a perfect training plan. but when I was in work, I tend to have Mondays as a rest day, just so that I could do a bit of editing on a Monday. It helped me get YouTube videos out, so just thought I'd let you guys know that. So on a Monday, I have an easy to moderate pace. What I mean by this is, so as you can see in my pace, I've got kind of a 20-second per kilometre window. I've put the mile conversions here as well. But the reason why I have such a big tolerance is because this is kind of like an aerobic base I'm running at. The faster pace runs is going to be more anaerobic, so you have either aerobic or anaerobic. There's going to be a scale. You're never going to be doing 100% anaerobic, and you're never going to be doing 100% aerobic. But the faster pace runs, you're going to be more anaerobic. The slower pace runs is going to be more aerobic. So these are two different skills. So even though you're running, have to bear that in mind, that you don't want to just go quick all the time. Doing these slow pace runs makes you have more endurance and builds up your aerobic base. So something in these pace runs, this isn't the slowest runs I do. As you can see down here, I do an aerobic or easy pace run, which I've called it, which is more of a recovery based run, activates healthy blood flow. But the reason why I'm saying I have a big tolerance on this pace here is because I like to focus more on my breathing. Something I do, I breathe in from my nose every 3 strides and out through my mouth every 3 strides again. On a Tuesday here, I have an anaerobic run or a speed run. So this is 10 kilometers overall, or 6.21 miles. So I've put the mile conversions again here for you. So basically 3 kilometer warm up and cool down, and then something I like to do, this is my most common speed workout. I like to do 2 times 800 meters, then 4 times 400 meters and 4 times 200 meters with warm up and cool down either side of that, just to get my body used to it. And as well, I don't want to just stop dead after doing the speed work, because I find my body recovers better if I have a bit of a cool down after it as well. Less chance of getting injured, which is really important when doing these marathon or half marathon training plans. So the pace here, I've got use initiative, ideally as fast as possible. So what I mean by that is, if I try to do just 800 meters as fast as I can on my very first set, I know full well that it's going to hinder the rest of the workout. So I'm not going as fast as possible. What I mean by use initiative is just kind of hold it back a little bit and go not by specific pace, because I'm not on my watch checking my pace on these runs necessarily. I'm going more by the distance. So because I can't go in any tracks at the minute, UK lockdown, I'm basically, what I do, I run down a canal and I'll set a landmark, whether that be a tree or something, that'll be the finish line. So I go over the distance before, and then I run to that landmark I can see, and then that'll be the end of the run. So I'm not focusing on pace as such, but what I say by use initiative, I'm not just going 100% on the very first exercise. So that's kind of going to hinder the rest of my workout. So when I get to these 200 meters, I still want to have enough in the tank where I can really push myself on these 200 meters, and ideally be sprinting for at least kind of 50% of that. At least 100 meters, I'd say. But the reason why these anaerobic runs are so good, you're basically increasing your VO2 max. In layman's terms, you're strengthening your heart. So your heart can pump out more blood every time it beats. So the stronger your heart becomes, your heart's essentially a muscle. The stronger your heart becomes, it can pump out more blood every time that it beats. So that's why marathon runners, their resting heart rate would be lower than someone that doesn't run, for example, because they're built up their heart, they've built up the VO2 max, so their heart is stronger in relation to their body. So when you're running, how you stay in breath is through oxygen. When your heart pumps out blood, it's pumping out oxygen. So the stronger your heart is, the more oxygen is going to be produced. So the more oxygen you're going to have, so it means you can run at a faster pace and be more comfortable with it. That's why I do these speed workouts. So the next day here, I've got a tempo run. What a tempo run is basically just mimicking the pace that I want to set on race day. So this 340 kilometer here, or 554 per average mile. So that is for me to achieve, I think it works out to a 1 hour 17 and something half marathon. That's the average kind of pace I want to set for race day. So I have a 3 kilometer warm up and cool down, just like I do with the speed workout, the interval runs before, just so my body gets used to it. I never just run straight away, just because your muscles aren't warm, more chance to pull up with an injury, all sorts like that, and then cool downs again. You can recover as best as possible. So this is 6 kilometers at race pace in between a 3 kilometer warm up and cool down. This is simply, again, it's increasing your VO2 max, but ultimately just getting you more comfortable running at the pace that you want to set on race day. Again, I have an easy run after here on a Thursday, which would normally be a rest day on a lesser week, but because this is the most intense week, I want to build up my general mileage in my legs to have that endurance in my body. So this is just a 6 kilometer, really easy pace for me personally. 4 minutes 50 plus, so I'm not really holding myself to the pace at all on this run. It's simply just to activate healthy blood flow, meaning that I'm going to be recovered as well as possible for the remaining session. After that, I have another threshold workout. This here is a really good gauge. So this is, again, is 2 weeks away. 10 kilometers, I'm going to be trying to set a PB. I ideally want to get sub 36 minutes. If I can get sub 36 minutes in this 10 kilometer PB attempt, then that means I'm probably going to be able to achieve a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon. This is a good gauge to go by. This is going to be building confidence. So ultimately, if I achieve this goal here, I know I'm going to have enough in the tank, supposedly, to be able to achieve a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon. So that's going to be a PB attempt. That's going to be 100% all out for that PB. After that here is just going to be some hill runs. As I was speaking before, hill runs are good to increase the strength in your body, make you a more powerful runner. So this is just, there's a course by me where there's a lot of hills. So you can do hills differently. You can do hills in intervals, or I just like to do this one. I'm not going fast at all throughout the whole of the run, but as I'm going uphill, I'm kind of pushing myself, and then as I'm going downhill, it's all kind of, I recover on the downhills, push myself on the uphills. It's a good track by me. This is obviously depends whereabouts you live. I have some good runs by me, some good hills, some good trails to go on, so a nice route I enjoy here. And in the long run, this is going to be the longest run of my half marathon training schedule. I know I can run kind of a little bit more than that, but because I'm only going to be running 21.1 kilometers on race day, it seems a bit counterintuitive for me to run 30 kilometers or 34 kilometers, like around 20 miles, anything like that. So I think there becomes a point of diminishing returns. So that's something to bearing in mind. So 26 kilometer run of what I'm doing here, that's going to be my longest run. So again, so as you can see there, that is my longest week. So I like to work backwards from this, going back, so I'll gradually build up to this point. I think it's important to increase your mileage gradually so you're not getting injured. So I'll slowly increase probably 3 or 4 kilometers every week to get to this point I am now. So I've explained simply what the runs are on my training schedule. I'm not going to go through the whole training schedule, but I'm going to put in a little link in the bio. So if you want to have a look at that, you can download my remaining 4 weeks of my training plan to get to a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon. So you can have a look at that if you want to. I do taper for around 10 to 14 days, but again, if you want to have a look at that, you can do. I'm simply just decreasing the amount of mileage you do, not making the speed works as often. So basically everything in terms of volume and intensity is going to be coming down just to ensure that I'm as fresh as possible and I can set a new PB on race day. The next thing I want to talk about is gear and equipment, what I'm wearing, what I'm going to be running in. So first, let's start off with running shoes, and I'll show you exactly what running shoes I use for my sub 3 hour marathon attempt. So these, I've basically got some Nike's Zoomfly 3s. This was an older technology of Nike shoe, but it's something that fared with me really well, to be honest. It's something that I enjoyed running in. It seemed to complement my running style after wearing them in for a little bit. Felt a little bit weird at first, but I got used to it. But as you can see, these shoes are absolutely battered by now. So I've bought a new pair of running shoes. So how did I decide what race shoes to have? So bearing that in mind, I got on really well with the Zoomfly 3s, but an older technology of Nike shoes. So I'm going to be sticking with Nike. So I was weighing up the two possibilities of either Alpha Flies or Vapor Flies. So these are the two most common Nike race shoes. There may be new technology when I come to do a sub 2 hour 50 full marathon in October, so I'm bearing that in mind. But for the half marathon, I think I'm going to go in with the Vapor Flies. In fact, I've actually ordered the Vapor Flies, so they're going to be coming in the next few days hopefully. So I want to wear them in for around 20 miles before I run, just so I feel comfortable in them before I race. I don't just want to stick them on brand new on a run, because you need to give your shoes a little bit of time to adapt to your foot shape, your running style, your running stride, etc. So The Vapor flies are lighter than the Alpha flies, but the Alpha flies I think come into their own more over a marathon distance. The Alpha flies are what Eliud Kipchoge wore when he attempted a sub 2 hour marathon and achieved it, an incredible achievement. The Vapor flies are lighter, but they both have carbon fibre plates. They're both very responsive race shoes, but the Vapor flies are a little bit lighter and have a steadier sole, which is similar shape to the Zoom Fly 3, hence why I've gone for the Vapor flies. But over the course of a marathon, I think the Alpha flies really come into their own with those air pockets underneath the ball of your feet just before it gets to the arch of your foot, because that really starts to help propel you forward towards the end of a marathon. So here, so I haven't wore any of these shoes yet. I'm a little bit late to the party if I'm honest, but I'm going to be trying out the Vapor flies, and I think that's what I'm going to be running on race day, so I'm really excited to be running in those. And in terms of other equipment, whether that is watches or anything from what top you're wearing, running socks, running shoes, shorts, whatever it is, you don't just want to be putting a new pair of running shorts and potentially have your bits hurt, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty hung.
My word, you're a tripod.
If I just wear some small shorts, I mean, it's going to be coming out the side, potentially. I reckon I could have bought that, you know. Fools.
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G. Snoop Dogg.
So I think it's really important to be comfortable in everything you want to be running in. You don't want to be experimenting with anything new on race day. Everything I do for race day in terms of mental preparation, I like to have it all in a routine so that I'm not feeling overwhelmed in a race. I have a lot of confidence, and I want to have confidence in the equipment as well as myself, you know what I mean? So it seems a bit counterintuitive to kind of have a training plan, work as hard as possible in that, and then just wear something new on race day where it might rub. I want to know that I can run in everything comfortably on race day, so I don't have that insecurity of whether I'm going to be uncomfortable on the race. I think that's very, very important. And as well, you don't want to be halfway through the race and you've worked so hard to get to this point and then you're slowing up because you're getting a bit of a blister or your nipples are hurting. You don't want bloody nipples on race day, you know what I mean? So this brings me to my last tip of how I'm getting a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon, and something I wanted to speak about is mental preparation. Two things I like to do. So visualization work is something I'm really fond of. It's something I really like to do, and sometimes people don't do this, but I think you're a little bit of a fool to not take the mental side of running seriously, because in my point of view, I think the mental side of running is just as important as the physical side. You want to be confident. You don't want to have a lot of nerves and anxiety where it's hindering your running. You want to have kind of a neutral head, enjoy your run, and something I like to do is visualization work. Not just visualizing myself doing well, which is something I do, as I was speaking about what clothes I want to wear. Before the race, I want to go through exactly what I'm wearing, exactly who's going to be there if I'm not running on a particular race. If I am running in a race, what friends and family are going to be there. I like to go over everything, visualize everything from what I'm wearing, and ultimately visualize myself achieving what I want to achieve, crossing that finish line and getting a goal that I want to set. But as well, I don't just want to visualize all the good things that are going to happen, because we're all well aware a disaster can happen when you race. I don't know, your lace might snap, your lace might come undone, anything, something might be bothering you, if you have a little bit of an injury that develops throughout the race. I like to go over everything and really put myself and visualize myself going through these bad points, so that if it comes to fruition on race day, I know full well that I've gone over it 1,000 times in my head. So if this happens, if my lace comes undone on race day, I stay calm, I stop, I do my lace back up, and then I get back on my way. I don't panic. I've gone through it over and over again in my head before. This is just an example, but I've gone over it over and over in my head before, just so I'm not going to be panicking on race day. I think that's really important. You have a lot of pressure if everything you've done, all your training plan comes down to this very day, and it gives you a lot of pressure because you're like, this is it, I've worked so hard and I have to perform in this moment. Just settle down a little bit, put yourself in that mindset of visualizing all the good things, visualizing yourself doing well, but also visualize the worst possible case scenarios, so that if it does come to fruition, you can stay calm, because we're all well aware that this stuff can happen. You know, that's one of the good things about running. It gives you that adrenaline, if you like, that unknown. I think it's quite exciting, but just calm down a little bit, visualize all the good things, all the bad things that can happen. So if anything does come to fruition, you're not going to panic on race day. As well as visualization, another way I like to prepare is do some meditation work. So something I've got into over the last kind of year, I've got really into Stoicism. For anyone that doesn't know what Stoicism is, it's basically an ancient Greek philosophy where it's basically people are putting themselves in a mindset as what they used to do in kind of old warriors would put themselves in a mindset of not allowing stuff to affect them that they don't have any control over. So in day-to-day terms, it could be someone that's bothering you at work, a boss that puts stress on you. You don't let that stress that they're putting onto you actually affect you. So this is easier said than done quite often the time, but it can be in another context. For me making YouTube videos, I try and practice Stoicism because I can't control if people like my videos or not. The only thing I can control is trying to make the best possible content, the most entertaining content possible, the most value I can give in videos, but I can't control ultimately how many views a video gets. This is something where the YouTube algorithm will take it. I can't control that. So if I make a video, I've put in a lot of effort into the video, I think it's a good video, I think it should get X amount of likes, X amount of views, but then not a lot of people see it. I don't like to let this bother me. Stoicism goes hand in hand with running because you don't want to allow the stuff you can't control to affect your confidence, to affect your run. So everyone knows you have those kind of two parts of your brain. You have that one part of your brain that is fearful, that wants you to slow down, that wants you to stop. Then you have the other part of your brain that's a little bit more logical, rational, that knows you can run at this pace and it isn't going to kill you. But you have that part of your brain still that wants you to slow down, that's fearful. So when I practice Stoicism, when I practice meditating, I'm not controlling my mind, but I'm just getting used to putting myself in this philosophy of not allowing stuff to bother me that I can't control. So the story I had, my dad was really ill a few years ago, and luckily he got over it. But my mom's an author and my dad had a little section in the book where he was explaining his near-death experience. So basically he had an appendix that burst. So when your appendix bursts, essentially what happens is your body gets poisoned because your appendix basically digests all the toxins out of foods. So if your appendix bursts, then your whole body is poisoned essentially. When he was in hospital, he developed double pneumonia. And I remember going to see him, and I just remember thinking that didn't want me to see him in this way. But after him coming out of it, and after him, I've never really spoken to him about it, but after him writing about it in this book, he basically explains that he had himself in this mindset. He wasn't aware of what Stoicism was, but I think we all have this natural inclination to do this when we're under extreme stress. And my dad clearly felt that his life was under threat. So when he had that under threat, I think your body naturally shuts off all the noise that it doesn't need. It goes into survival mode, and in his way of what survival mode was just trying to stay calm and not kind of be a victim to the position that he was in. So something he said he did, he just closed his eyes and focused on breathing because the pain was so deep. If he just kind of let the pain get all up in his feelings, then he felt that his chances of surviving wouldn't have been as good. So I remember going to see him, and like I said, he seemed like he didn't, I just presumed that he didn't want me to see him in this kind of light. But after him writing in the book, what he actually was doing was practicing Stoicism, whether he knew it or not. It was kind of naturally something he did when his body was in his fight or flight. But it said there was someone in the hospital that had a similar thing to him in the same room, and he was kind of crying and making a noise for himself. And for whatever reason, whether it was just kind of more natural in my dad's DNA potentially, I don't know, but for whatever reason it was quite natural for my dad to not panic. And the other guy said to him, the guy who's on the bed next to him asked my dad how he wasn't in so much pain. My dad said he just shrugged his shoulders. And I remember going to see him, I thought he didn't want me to see him in this way, but in hindsight it was like I was distracting him. So it was like I was going there speaking to him, it was like if I was speaking to him now, it'd bring me to the present moment in time where he'd start feeling the pain. But by him getting himself in this kind of, if you like, altered mental state where he wasn't feeling his pain, he felt like that was another way of him to get through it. So this is something I'm very inspired by. I'm inspired by this because this is something I like to get myself in this meditative state when I run, so that like I know I'm not going to be feeling the pain as much. I'm not going to be overwhelmed by feeling the pain. Practicing this mentally so that when I do it on race day, everything's just familiar and everything flows. That's the plan anyway. That's something that I try and do. When I ran my first marathon, the time just flew, man. Honestly, the first half marathon just flew. My brother and my cousin who was there with me, I couldn't run it in a race because all the races were cancelled, but they recorded it as I was going down the canal so I could have footage for YouTube. My cousin was giving me gels so that I had all the gels I needed so I didn't have to carry them on me, so they were helping me out. And obviously for them, they're on bikes and they said it went really slow, the 3 hours, but because I was running, I got myself in this mindset, and I've never had that where I've really been in flow state for that amount of time. When I came out of it, honestly, like, I was crying at the end of the run and I just felt emotionally drained. Even though I was running and it was a physical pursuit, man, I was so emotionally drained. After the race, we went to get a carvery and I just had a pint. I had no energy to talk. I was just emotionally and mentally drained, man. And I think it's because my mind, if you like, was working in overdrive. It's that fight or flight thing. My mind was working in overdrive where my prefrontal cortex was working so much. The next day, I was knackered. I had such a good night's sleep, and you could say, yeah, that could be physical as well. So recently, I did a day in the life of the best marathoner ever lived, Eliud Kipchoge, the only man to ever run a sub-2-hour full marathon. One thing I've learned from that, if I've learned anything from having a day in the life of Eliud Kipchoge, it is the journaling. So he journals a lot, and now I'm furloughed from work, I have this extra time in the day where I can journal. So every time I come back off a run, I plan on writing down what my run is. Eliud basically goes through over all his training sessions, so he knows that he's worked as hard as he possibly can. So he has none of this added stress of trying to achieve a time. All he's trying to do is focus on his pace and set himself a new PB. He knows he's worked as hard as he possibly can. It can be quite emotionally draining having an amount of this pressure on you when you go to run. So he just focuses on, he knows he's done his best. That's all he can do. So I take inspiration from Eliud in that regard. So that's something I want to do. So I'm going to start journaling all of my runs after I've finished them. Now I've got this extra time where I'm furloughed from work. And then a day before I try and set my sub 1 hour 20 half marathon, I can go over it. And this is going to give me confidence knowing that I've worked as hard as I possibly can. So I hope you've enjoyed my tips of how I'm trying to achieve a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon. Again, this isn't the only way to run a sub 1 hour 20 half marathon. Everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to need to focus on different skills. I don't have a coach personally. If you have a coach and he or she's telling you to do something else, then go by what your coach is saying. Don't go by what I'm saying. But if you want to have a look at my training plan, the remaining 4 weeks of my training plan, by all means, click the link in the description. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, subscribe if you're new. But also, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who already is subscribed, everyone that's already shown me support, everyone that's liked and commented on all my videos. I really do appreciate it. I do see it, and I just wanted to have a little shout out to those people. I really do appreciate the support, and hopefully I'm wishing you all best of luck in your races. Let's all smash it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Oh, yeah. What do you feed that thing, eh? It's like a baby's arm holding an apple.
I'm at the top of my game, looking down at the rafters. I had to sun these boys, can't leave them blasters. A lot of dudes, just some